queer community gets mad at me that I don't always talk about queer stuff. And it's like me being me on stage. It's like, it's fucking gay enough, no?
What was that Vogue article that came out about you? The Robby Hoffman season is upon us?
Robby Hoffman season upon us. Plus, you didn't mention, I just got from my agents right now.
Tell me.
Variety, Hacks Breakout. Robby Hoffman joins Steve Carell's new HBO comedy. So I've been shooting that, The Cat's Out of the Bag, and that's been really nice. I mean, it's just, I'm living one of the greatest lives I've heard about in recent history. And and I'm thrilled that it's to me. I'm thrilled that I get to hear about such a great life, and it's me. It's unreal.
Does it feel like there's a lot of attention on you right now? Does it feel like this is a moment that a bunch of stuff is happening, or does it feel like sort of just a continuation of what's been going on for a while?
I just think that, like, when I go back to Canada and I haven't seen friends for a long time, every time something happens, whether it was even in Canada, getting my Crave 1 hour special, or then getting my first American writing job, or then getting my first TV, acting job, or then selling my own show, it always feels like people are like, this is your big break or whatever. And for me, it's always been a series of breaks. I've been it's been like a steady flow, which is very nice. I'm not the overnight sensation. I'm definitely a grower, not a shower. I know he knows what that means.
Hey.
I know it's CBC, but I'm definitely a grower, not a shower. And it's just been really a nice ride. The pace of it has helped me really kind of enjoy the brunt work of it. And it feels not unexpected. It doesn't feel like all of a sudden, like I can't, it feels like, yeah, this is what we're working towards. We continue to work towards. And it's felt very comfortable.
I can't have roommates. Okay, I had 9 roommates growing up. I'm done with it. I'm done. My girlfriend grew up like fucking Succession. They got the house with the fucking stairs, the whole shit. People aren't talking to people. I'm following the money, I'm involved. Okay. For some reason, she's got 2 roommates. Rich people like to cosplay poverty. I don't really understand it. It's a strange phenomenon.
Does the sold out hometown show for Just for Laughs, does that feel, that feels like a moment where you might be able to stop for a second? Like you might be able to say like, hey, this is where I started doing comedy, and look, I'm coming back and doing this big sold out show at the big festival. Will this be a big moment for you?
To be perfectly candid with you, Tom, if I may, I've been selling out in my hometown for some years now.
I know, but maybe there's something about the JFL in this, Yeah.
I've sold out JFL before, but that said, back then it was if you knew, you knew. Now more people know, so it feels always different. Each show, because I do live comedy, each show is a snowflake. No 2 shows are the exact same. That said, this one did sell out within actual minutes. I think it was posted and then sold out. I was starting to get DMs, hey, is there going to be a second show added? And there will not be. This is what I tell everybody. You have to run, do not think, grab the tickets while you can. I'm not here to be arrogant, egotistical, and saying like, oh, it's going to sell out because I'm just, so big-headed. I know it's going to sell out, and I'm warning you, it's going to sell out. This one in particular, my hometown has delivered. I think my hometown delivered the quickest sellout of any show that I've had. I believe it was like 6 minutes. I don't know how long it was really, but something like that.
What does that mean to you?
That's amazing to me. That means to me just a good time. Just people are excited. If you get it, you get it. And
for you, like for you to have your whole, like your hometown show to sell out that fast, it must be meaningful.
Well, you know what? Montreal is bittersweet for me. It's not, I can't say that it was the city. Yes, I started stand-up there, but it wasn't the warmest city and I mean that figuratively and literally, to start stand-up in. It was a very small city. The Just for Laughs Festival is kind of an aside to the actual local city. The Just for Laughs Festival was this big international festival, but the local scene was pretty gritty and pretty stale. and kind of in many ways old, and the kind of spots I had to go to. I remember there was like this like single dude in his 50s or whatever who was kind of, I don't know if pervy or desperate, but the line is close. And, with the kind of guy who made you like hang out in order to get stage time. Like, I was doing good work and I would say, hey, can I perform this show? It's like, well, we don't see you hanging out. It's like, I don't really want to drink, with all these 50-year-old dudes. I'm in my 20s, I kind of have my own friends. I'm in school, yeah, but so I only did Montreal maybe a year and a half, I want to say max 2. By the time, even in that second year, I got my driver's license. My impetus to get my driver's license, which this is such an urban city thing, not to have your license till your mid-20s, but I got my license to be able to drive outside of Montreal and do some of those shows in the weirder small towns like the Cornwall and the Hamilton and Ottawa and Waterloo, and I don't even know all these other towns, and then eventually made myself to Toronto, where I was really embraced. But of course, coming from Montreal, they have this kind of rivalry, one-sided rivalry with Toronto, that Toronto sucks, it's the Leafs, it's terrible. But really, Toronto was fantastic. So I thought Toronto would be terrible, and it ended up being the greatest city I think I've ever lived in. And I noticed that Toronto didn't have that rivalry with Montreal. Toronto loved Montreal. Montreal had kind of an inferiority complex with Toronto. So Montreal really Toronto really embraced me. Montreal is kind of, when I go there, it's a little bit of a fuck you, but not really. I still love Montreal. It's just that scene for comedy was very stale. And of course, I haven't been there in years. I'm sure it's very different, and every generation has their own. But going back to Montreal and selling out is kind of like the people were always with me, not necessarily the industry there.
So the story that I had heard is that in Montreal, you moved to Montreal with 9 of your siblings. We'll talk about that when we talk a little bit about hacks. You did a lot of comedy in the house growing up, like a lot of like I know your mom had an incredible taste in art and culture and was showing you all kinds of things.
So my mother just had taste in everything.
Comedy?
Yes, incredible in comedy. I mean, there's lots of things that she would talk about that I thought were kind of like old, or like nobody's doing that anymore.
Like what?
And now I have an appreciation for, like old Jackie Mason. I'm like, Ma, like, please. But, she comes, stuff like that. But we also loved Roseanne. So it was a mix of things that I can appreciate more now.
So then you end up going to McGill to do accounting because it's stable. Like there's a job in that.
Oh, yeah.
You can get a laptop. I heard you say you can get a laptop. I
got one for free.
You get a free laptop. You get a couple of bucks guaranteed. And then when you want to do comedy, you say, what's the best place to bomb? You talk to someone, you say, what's the best? I find that really interesting.
Even though we grew up with such good artists, it wasn't like an isolated thing. Like I didn't know that these people I didn't know stand-up as like its own. Like, I guess I know now that stand-ups did movies and they were comedic actors or whatever, but really the Just Lost Festival opened, and I'll give credit where credit is due to Montreal. It's like, oh, it's like a thing. It's its own thing. It's not, and yeah, there were really only 2 clubs there. And I didn't want to I knew I didn't know nothing. So my whole thing was like, where do the where do losers go? Let me see if I even want to do this thing. And I went to one of the clubs and asked, I guess somebody working there, I don't even remember, what's the best place to bomb. And there was this guy's loft, George Braithwaite's loft, but it was horrendous, but it was also very cool at the same time. It was cool and horrendous. It was like one of these, raw lofts, whatever, but it was really quite raw. And he lived with an artist who painted massive paintings that actually were so cool looking back. And the loft was a dump, but it was a great dump. And a lot of people just came in there, get reprieve from the cold, the Montreal cold. And I went on a very cold night, a December night, I remember. And I brought two of my high school friends, and we were all just like sheltered young girls.
Did you have jokes written? Did you have?
I had like five, yeah, I had like ideas. Like I was talking about my family back then. But yeah, these guys, I thought they were 1,000 back then. They must have been like 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm like, these guys are 1,000. We were like young, like, and they were having shots, and I didn't really, fuck with that. I just went up there, and I had something different than other people. That this is when like a lot of those like men started talking to me, not in a way, but like in a way to give me advice. Like they saw that there was something there. So how could I get in there? And I would hear advice like it takes 10 years, takes 10 years to find your voice and things like that. But what I was hearing personally about my stand-up was like, you have such a unique voice. Where do you come? Like I had the opposite. Like I first had the voice, apparently, and then it's like the material came, versus some people start with the material and they find themselves in their voice.
Yeah, a lot of people start doing impressions of comedians that they like, and then eventually they figure out who they are along the way. You're saying you came out, you kind of knew exactly what you were right away.
Yeah, well, I didn't know, but like anything I said, let's say it was a topic that was in the zeitgeist or something popular. If I talked about it, it was somehow a fresh take. It was new. It was a way of looking at it that nobody had had. So it didn't matter. I kind of had the pick of the litter of material. I could talk about anything, and it being filtered through my lens came out this new perspective. So that was kind of what I discovered there in Montreal.
So the question I had about that was, if you're going for accounting at McGill because it's safe, you can get a free laptop, which you did, and you got money out of it.
You.
When you come from not a lot of money, having money is important.
Yes.
And then I was like, well, hold on. How do you then leave and then go to Toronto to work on TV shows, doing writing jobs, and do stand-up in Toronto? I was like, that seems the opposite of security. That seems the opposite of having steady money. But what I'm hearing from you is, it sounds like it was already working by the time you decided to make that call.
Well, yeah. So when I started stand-up, I said 6 months. If it's not working, which is a nothing time, but again, who cares? I didn't know. I also didn't know about stand-up. There was no like stakes. Like I was like, okay, if I do this thing doesn't work, it doesn't matter. I have this job. I get paid every 2 weeks, direct deposit. I mean, there's nothing better. But by 6 months, it was starting like there was like a hubbub a bit. But then I still always like security to this day. I don't have the temperament. I'm somebody, it's like, when you talk about my career, it's always going. It's because of that need for stability. I've made it, God willing, somewhat stable because of my hunger for stability. I will, even if there's one I'm going to go and try for it. When I left accounting, I remember I got this agent because I wrote a script. Again, I didn't know anything about comedy. And I thought once I knew about it, I was like, oh yeah, wasn't Seinfeld a stand-up? Ellen was a stand-up. Like all these people I realized were stand-ups, but I thought they were just TV people. But I thought, oh, every stand-up has a pilot or something. So I just decided to write one, not knowing that actually many stand-ups only do they don't write. But I just was like, I have tons of things to write. So, and that script never got made, but it did get me, it circulated and it got me rep. She would send me jobs like, oh, a week in a writer's room. I'd say, I can't do it. I can't take off work I said, you only can bring me something long-term. And she's like, that's not how TV is. It's not long-term. It's a week. It's 2 weeks. I said, I can't do it. I'm not leaving my stable job for 2 weeks. I said no to a lot of early, but Odd Squad, the kids show in Toronto, was looking for a writer's assistant, which would get me and it was 6 months, which is the longest so far. And when I heard 6 months, I said, there's 6 months I can prove myself. Okay. And then it ended up being there 3.5 years and winning my first Emmy. So I left for a stable, in my idea, stable writing job. I didn't leave for the 1 week or the 2 weeks.
So the story I wanted to get was that you mentioned that you wrote, because you didn't know, you thought Seinfeld, you thought Ellen, these were just people who were just TV people. So you wrote the script. The story that I heard is that you posed as a courier and went into the offices of HBO, not HBO, HBO Canada, and demanded to see the president as a courier. Could you tell me that story? Can you tell me how you pretended to be can you tell me that?
Yeah, so I wrote this script and I really knew nothing about how to get a script. I figured like right away it would be, I'm like, oh, it's terrific. Right away I liked it. I was like, oh, this is a shoe-in. But I was like, who makes TV? And then it's like literally me researching like at home on my free laptop, like, and I was like, oh, there's an HBO Canada office. There's a Movie Network Canada office. There's like something called TNT or whatever. I don't know. I just decided to print my script at work for free, where we had very nice printing room and staplers and whatever. So I wrote it, I printed it, and I put it in nice manila envelopes. I stole a lot of supplies from KPMG. Shout out to the accounting firm who hired me. I appreciate you. But they had all the good supplies. And I just like printed it like 5 or 6 times, put it in an envelope. And I just showed up there to the big building or whatever, where it was. I don't even remember. And from the cold, always freezing. And I took it out of my school bag and I was like, hey, like the president of HBO asked to read this. I don't know if I assume. So they were like, you know, the security guard, whoever's at the front desk is like, we don't have a president. I said, I don't know. I'm just a courier. They asked me to get this to the HBO, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I got my first option deal from HBO Canada.
I can't believe it
for $1,000.
I can't believe it worked. Like, I can't believe, not to say nothing regarding the script, Robbie, don't get me wrong. I would have thought you walk in pretending to be the courier, give this to someone, they would go like, whatever. Like, it must have been something else that they would have read it after you pulled that, and they would have read it and said, no, I think we should work with this person.
Yeah, like I said, that's actually what got me the rep. So that script that I wrote, yeah, it was probably, now looking back as a real TV writer, I mean, I'm sure there was all kinds of wrong with it, but probably the heart was there and the idea was there. You know, the idea is always, you can kind of learn everything else. You know, the idea is the nugget, is the gold. So I think the idea was probably good enough that they were like, we're obviously not making this insane thing. You know, I didn't know anything about budget. I probably had planes in there, and then, you know, and then whatever, you know, you're writing blue skies. But I'm sure the heart, the voice, and the idea were there. And so even though it didn't get made, it was circulated. Who is this new young writer? Obviously, I was not even really a writer. I just wrote this one thing. But I guess the difference of people who are writers and non-writers is writers write. And I was already writing. So that's what that was.
Like, you're writing a script, you're writing a show that's, you know, trying to be like Ellen and be like all these other shows. You are you, very authentically you, so it's coming out this way. It leads me to, I'll skip ahead, I find the hacks thing really interesting. Like, I find, so just for people who don't know, Robbie plays Randy on Hacks, character left in Orthodox Hasidic community, gets a job as an agent's assistant in Hollywood. The show's creators have talked about how they created that role. It wasn't given to you, but they created that role with you in mind. Can you tell us about the moment you got a call that said that?
Yes, it was horrifying. The
Really?
creator, yes, I don't have the temperament for this business. Again, I can't be told, like the creator of Hacks calls you and said, we wrote a part for you and you have to audition. I read it was like, I don't have the temperament to audition. I can't even deal with the struggle. Like, if it's for me, it's for me. She said, no, you have to audition. I said, but like, it's so much worse. The pressure to me, like I said, it's like, if they told me the part was written for Meryl Streep and I didn't get it, okay, who cares? I'm like, of course, Meryl, like, you know, like, but they tell me it's written for me. And then if I don't get that, how humiliating, that's even worse. That's like, they give you the layup. All you have to do is tap it in. So it's horrifying to think about not getting a part written for you. It's way worse. It's like they've set you up perfectly. But thank God I dunked it in. I did the audition.
were you
Who
free?
knew acting as you could do okay? But it's
I would
like,
be worried. I would be worried that I'm like, am I
Exactly,
really
thank
acting
you.
as me? Am I
I
doing like a
know.
version of me, you know?
But that's what happens. So that's exactly what happens. You do a version of you because it's not quite you. You know, Randy is more timid, eager, all that stuff. I'm swaggier, more aggressive. Maybe not more aggressive, aggressive in different ways. But the heart is the same. The character is obviously the same, but it's not quite you. And that's almost hard because it's like, you know, if I have to be the boogeyman, okay, you put me in a costume, I'm like totally different. But now I have to be like mostly me with a twist. Like I have to be Twilight Zone me.
Yeah. It sounds impossible.
It's horrible.
How was the audition?
Like it was horrible to have to audition because the thing I have with auditioning is like I'm way better acting than I am the audition. The audition process is not acting. You don't have the characters. You don't have the other, like, you know, it's like this. It's like, it's funny that they give you the part based on not doing acting. Like you're doing an audition, which is a very different circumstance than acting. It's kind of like interviewing for a job. It's the same thing. Like the interview is nothing like the job. You could say whatever the hell you want in the interview. It doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, you know, like when I was interviewing for regular jobs, not in entertainment, I used to say stuff like, because I heard it was good to say, I would say, you know, I'm very laid back and easy go. It's like, I'm not late. I don't even know what that means, but I heard it was good, like laid back. I'm not laid back. You know, I used to try, it's like, I don't even like pulp in my orange juice. I'm laid back. Like, but you know, the interview process is very different than the actual job. And that's the same for the audition process to the acting. But if you can get it, you know, you can get it pretty close. And that's what's been, you know, good about it. Since then, I've been auditioning, and like anything, it takes practice.
How's bringing so much of yourself to the story? Like how much of like I mentioned, like it's a pretty unique story that they wrote for you. You know, like about I mean, based on you. You know, your character coming from a Hasidic background in Brooklyn, not something you see on TV a lot. You know, you've talked a lot about how your mom was young when you left that community. You moved to Montreal with your siblings. How has it been to bring that whole experience to this role, or is that on your mind?
Well, I'll say this: had they cast anyone else, they would have been canceled. You can't just, you know, they clearly wrote it for me, you know, and you're getting away with murder if you have an inside perspective to, you know, that character. So I think, how was it bringing myself? I bring myself to everything. I can't explain that. It's like when my mother was upset that I don't go by my given name, I go by Robby. You know, she's like, you know, you're ashamed to be Jewish, or, you know, like, how could you switch your name? It's like, Ma, you think within 10 seconds of me being on stage, people are like, I wonder if she's Catholic? Like, there's no way, you know, or the queer community gets mad at me that I don't always talk about queer stuff. And it's like, me being me on stage, it's like, it's fucking gay enough, no?
It strikes me, though, that it could have gone, speaking of your mom, this all could have happened a lot earlier, because I found out you got an opportunity to audition for Degrassi when you were a kid.
Oh my God, wow, you've really done your research, Tom.
Is that true?
Yes. So when I was a kid, maybe 12, 13, 14, something like that, I did a play. But I wasn't that much. Anyway, the scouts were going to schools and different acting schools and things, I guess, all over Canada, but they'd come to Montreal. And I guess my teacher put in a good word or knew the scout. I don't really know the back end. Obviously, I was a kid. I was a tween or whatever. But they were looking for a redheaded character, which went to Stacey Farber, who I ended up meeting years later, and she's lovely. But I was a very bright redhead, no longer really the case. My hair's darkened over the years and pulling it back. But I had no acting experience, but the teacher, I guess, saw something in me, which is phenomenal. And I did an audition. It's like I did an audition, but then they wanted me to go to Toronto, which was like 5-hour drive. They called my house, like the acting teacher or scout or whatever he was. He called my mother and said, you know, we really want to see, you know, we'd love to see like an audition in Toronto. Like, and I guess he's saying with some of the other kids. So maybe I could have met Drake. Who knows?
Pretty cool.
Not too late to meet Drake. Hello, Drake.
No. He listens. He's a big public radio guy. He's listening right now. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, but my mother was like, my mother didn't like that a grown man is saying he's going to take her daughter. They're going to drive. They're going to have some type of road trip to Toronto. She's like, it's not happening. She's staying right here. You're not taking my kid nowhere. My mother thought the whole thing was perverted. And there was no way that she was letting her daughter go with some strange man. Like, what does she need, a flag? Like, there's no way some pervert's calling the house, but she assumed all men at this time. It's not her fault. Okay. But she just, she barged into my room. I kind of heard this phone call happening. She said, you're not going nowhere. You're staying here. And that's the end of the acting program, because she just assumed it was run by perverts. And by the way, she's not wrong. We've had so many documentaries come out in later years since of, all kinds of.
Be suspicious of child actor scouts.
She was very suspicious. So, and I think what really tipped her off was he wanted pictures. Now, he's not saying pictures. He was talking about headshots.
Yeah.
But he said he wanted like $200, which she couldn't even imagine pictures being $200, but that he was going to, and she goes, I don't want you near her. So you're not taking her nowhere, and you're not taking these godforsaken pictures.
You know what, man?
And that was the end.
I'm here laughing at it, and I'm here about to ask, like, oh, were you upset that you didn't get Degrassi? But also, sounds like a really nice gesture on your mom's part. Sounds like a nice protective mom thing to do,
My mother didn't have a lot. We grew up on welfare, but she was going to do the basics. It was a no-frill parenting. She was going to feed us, shelter us, protect us, period. Like, if any of us had been diddled or whatever, that would be on her. So she was very suspect of everyone, and probably as she should have been.
Yeah. She must be proud of you now, given that you know.
She's very proud.
Is she?
Yeah, she's very proud.
God love her. Is she in Canada?
The only reason I'm doing the queue here, Ma, if you're listening, the only reason I said yes to this queue is because she listens to Canadian programming.
Listen.
Tom, that's the only reason, no offense, I've said yes to this, because my team is like, oh, it's this thing in Canada. I said, it's actually quite big in Canada. It's not just a thing in Canada. I'm in. I like Tom. I like his shirt. And that's the end of it.
I paid her a significant amount of money to have that happen, Robby. So I'm glad it all worked out. I got two questions left. Two kind of Canadian-y questions. Hold on. Was your mom funny? Before I get to those two questions, your mom funny?
Hysterical.
Yeah.
One of the funniest people alive. We liked laughing at her, but she could laugh at herself with us. And she was amazing. I mean, I was just with my mother this weekend. I mean, her describing, how she watches movies on the VCR. I mean, it's not in a cool, she goes, she's a Luddite. She's an eccentric. She's certainly my mother. My mother, hasn't had a cell phone ever. My mother's only, in her early 60s. Like, there's a lot of people who have cell phones, at that age. But my mother, I remember when she wanted to go to the ROM, which is the Royal Ontario Museum, I had to pick her up she doesn't drive. I said, okay, you have to be on this bench. I was working at Odd Squad and I was finished maybe at 6. I said, 6 p.m., you have to be on this bench, on this corner, or I'm never going to find you. And sure enough, she'd spend the whole day in Toronto while I was at work, and she would be sitting on that bench. I would go get her on the streetcar.
I'm so glad she doesn't have a cell phone because it keeps her listening to public radio, which means you get on the show. Two Canadian questions left. One is you worked on 2 great Canadian shows, Working Moms, Baroness von Sketch.
I barely worked on Baroness, but I'm thrilled that it's still a credit attributed to me. I think that was one of those jobs during maybe Odd Squad or even Working Moms where I got a 1-week punch up on Baroness.
Bringing in to punch up scripts, bringing in.
Yeah, I was brought in just to do some punch up.
What do you remember working on Working Moms? Working
Moms was incredible. It was just a really fun room. It was an all women's room, which I've never had and never really knew. I never considered it, but it was really fun. And the show was gossipy. Our room got to be gossipy. I brought in such crazy idea. For me, working in a room versus working on my own show is 2 different hats. Working in a room, I can bring you 10 ideas that day, and I'm not married to any of them. If they work, great. If they don't, I don't care. If one's really expensive and you have to fight your network to get it done, I don't really care. I leave at 5, I'm done. I'm going to do stand-up. I don't have homework. And I'll come in tomorrow with 10 new ideas. I'm able to just, let my brain vomit whatever it wants. I'm trying to make that show great. And then when I write my own show, it is a lot more personal. I am more involved about, tone and larger look and feel of the show. So it's a very catharsis thing to work in a writer's room, to just go there, blurt out whatever the fuck, and not have any responsibility towards the ideas.
So you mentioned you would go do stand-up that night. This is the other one I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
You went to LA and started doing stand-up, and things are going very well now. I read this quote when I was doing research. You said that Canada has let me get away with murder. Do you find that you're received differently in Canada than you are in the U.S. or vice versa, or you were when you first started doing stand-up in the U.S.?
Well, I think Canada's just really proud of me now. So Toronto knows this, but I come to Toronto every year to dump my new stuff on them. I'm like, first of all, you barely, when I was here, made anything happen. So I'm coming for the people. I'm always coming for the people, and the people are coming for me. I'm of the people, by the people, for the people, forever.
Hold on, you choose Toronto? I didn't know that. You choose Toronto as like when you were trying out new material?
I typically come. Yeah, I typically come and dump out an hour, and Toronto comes. They literally come, and they might be some of the first audiences to hear anything that I'm doing for the whole year.
Why? Why do you come back here to do that?
I don't know. It's a dumping ground for me. It's like kind of when you go home and you drop your stuff off in your laundry. That's what Toronto is. I come and my lingerie, and it's just like coming home from camp to your parents' house. It's just like you dump everything, what's in the fridge, and you just chill out.
Yeah, man, I would say that. They are very proud of you here.
Yeah.
And that's what you mean by they let me get away with murder. You can maybe push, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I can yell at them. I could do this. I could do that. Good news is I'm leaving tomorrow. Let's say they are mad at me. Goodbye. See you next year. I'm not staying for the mess. I'm not cleaning up.
I ended up watching this video on YouTube from like 14 years ago of you as like, I think you were like a kid. You were going to like Schwartz's, and you were going to like another like late night Montreal.
Right.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's probably one of the first like video stuff that I did. I used to fuck around with all different types of things that I could do.
And you were like interviewing people who were at like Schwartz's late at night and at like a falafel place late at night.
Yes, I remember something like that. I wish they would take these things off the internet, but anyway.
When the Montreal show is over, the one you're doing, the big homecoming show, you're not tired. You're in Montreal. The show has just ended. It's late in the night. Where do you go?
I will actually. I know it's cliche, but I will go to Schwartz's. I'll probably be at Schwartz's or at Bustan. Bustan is the Lebanese shawarma place. I mean, they have a few of them now in Montreal, but they're phenomenal. You can't beat that garlic sauce.
I used to go to the Main across from Schwartz's, but then they closed.
Yes, my mother goes to the Main because she doesn't do a line.
Me too. Me too. It closed down,
yeah.
Robby. Did you know that it closed down?
The Main closed down?
The Main closed down. It's a bummer.
Well, it was because you and my mother were there.
me and your mom and
they didn't need the Main and Schwartz's right there. Let's be honest.
You're right. But I've never gone to Schwartz's since the Main closed because I don't want to wait in line. I won't do it.
My mother won't do a line, and she won't do the prices there now. But now my American dollar goes pretty far at Schwartz's. I'm pretty happy.
I'm glad me and your mom have so much in common. Robby, I will say Canada, very, very proud of you. And thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for making the time.
This is a lot better than I thought it would be, so thank you, Tom.